Before we talk about tactics, I should try to explain to you how strategies and commands work in Mount & Blade. As you can see in your control options, you have several groups you can command, from 1 to 9, and those troops can get orders. You can give orders to these troops you select with the keys 1 to 9 with your function keys, which means those weird little keys that usually go from F1 up to F12, and activating or using these keys depends from keyboard to keyboard. In my special case, I activate these function keys with a special key which activates the function key mode. It's just an F in a square. Other keyboards I've seen need to have Shift pressed, and while pressing Shift you have to press those keys. And even other keyboards I've seen use Alt Group, and then you have to push Alt Group, and simultaneously to Alt Group you have to push, for example, function key 1 to actually execute order 1. Got it? Okay, at least I hope you got it. Now, let's have a look what commands actually do on the battlefield. If I press 1, for example, you can see that down there on the left hand corner the infantry hears me. It's written in yellow. Yes, you should see it pop up. I continue pressing 1, and these are the orders I give to the infantry. If I press 2, now the archers are selected. Oh, wait. Let me toggle something in the options. Ah, it's already toggled. Okay. So what did I do? Why did these archers, or crossbowmen for instance, which are basically archers as well, why did those archers come to me? Well, because I ordered them to hold my position. How did I do this? Well, I selected them with 2, and now the simple menu popped up. If I press F1 now, movement orders will appear. If I press F2 now, formation orders will appear. And if I press F3, fire orders will appear. Obvious. Now let's have a look at the movement orders, because those are the orders you will use the most, I assure you. The one I pushed was F1, hold this position. This does mean that wherever I move and stop and push F1, the position where I am will be held by the troop I selected, which means all the archers are marching to my actual position right now and will defend this position with whatever they got, with crossbows, with shields, with their pointy sticks or their falchion, whatever they got. Oh, if I press 2 again, this tiny menu will appear again, and I can choose other commands. The most important command now, next to hold this position, is charge. If I press F3 charge, those characters will attack the enemy. Unfortunately, right now there is no enemy on this map, so they won't charge. But this is what F3 does. Let's have a look at the other orders, formation orders. That's pretty easy. F1 means that they're going to advance. F2, let's makes them fall back. What actually is interesting is F5, mount horses. If you got horse troops, which you can select with free cavalry, you can order them to mount their horses. Why is this important? Well, if your horsemen stand around for too long, they will automatically dismount sooner or later. If you press F5, they will never dismount, no matter how long they stand around. They will always stay mounted, and if their mount is killed by an enemy, they will try to find another mount. For example, from a fallen comrade or a fallen enemy, and ride on this mount. So this is something very important, very useful, something that the game never tells you. You have to find it out yourself, or, if you're lucky, and listen to my advice, you don't have to find it out for yourself. Let's switch back to the archers, because they are pretty nice for tutorial purposes. With F3 I can now select different firing orders which are useful in certain moments. Usually you will use F2 fire at will. This is the default firing mode. They always fire at will when they start a battle. And if you're not a super highly tactician, if you don't try to be the most strategic player ever, you will not need other orders except for one. Use blunt weapons only, because there are certain quests from lords that want you to hunt down a certain amount of enemy troops. I don't know, for example, 5 infantrymen from the Rhodoks faction. So how do you get these 5 infantrymen from the Rhodoks faction? Well, you order your soldiers, for example the archers, to use blunt weapons only. By doing so, they will only use blunt weapons, and they will injure or wound the enemy instead of killing the enemy. This way you will have many prisoners to take. And that's how you easily get your 5 captives. But, of course, if you don't know about this little trick, you're screwed. Because in most battles, you only get 1 or 2 injured enemies to capture. Sometimes even none. Now I have two other tips for you guys. You don't always have to push 2, then F1, then F3, for example. You simply can press 0 to select everyone, then press escape to close the menu, move to a certain position. I don't know, I'm riding somewhere way up high. And then, without pressing 0 or 1 or 2 or 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, just press the function key, F1 for example, and voila! You're automatically already in the movement order menu. And now I could order them from here to charge. Or I could order them from here to hold the position. Or I just hold down F1 and this little flag appears. And depending on where my camera is, this flag will be the spot that my troops will hold when I release F1. So now I release F1 next to this tree, and you see my troops move there. And they do so independently. They do not rely on specific commands I have to give to every goddamn group. But they do so in their own pace and according to their own capabilities. The other tip I want to give you is use the minimap. Yes, there is indeed a minimap included in Warband. You have to press the backspace key, which is a little bit above the enter key. And this opens a minimap on your right hand side, and on your left hand side you can use simplified commands with the mouse and select troops or deselect troops by checking or unchecking these boxes with left mouse click. These commands here are not as sophisticated as the commands you can use with the function keys, but they can be combined with map orders. Yes, you heard right. You can order directly in this map menu. Just hover with your mouse over the minimap and use left click. And all the troops you have selected here will move around. Now, for example, I ordered my ranged units and my infantry, or better, my archers and my infantry, to hold this position down here, while I myself am here, and my cavalry secures this position. Now I could order my cavalry to mount and wait, or I order them to charge. If there were enemies, now my cavalry will charge them, while my infantry holds this position and I supervise the battlefield. Got it? Oh, and you close this menu with backspace as well, so yeah. On, off, on, off. Got it? So, to leave a battlefield, press tab. You know, tab is those two crossed arrows, or those two arrows going in opposite directions, slightly above shift.